Welcome to Let's Get Real, a candid conversation series about leadership, impact, and what it really takes to show up with purpose and authenticity. So, in today's conversations, we are talking to Lena Hall, and we are going to explore how empathy drives transformation and what it means to lead culture change in complex systems and the actions leaders can take to build trust and lasting impact. So, Lena, I'm going to get right into the questions. What led you to launch Elan Consulting with a people first approach?
Thank you. So, first of all, Renee, thank you for the opportunity to be on your podcast. Let's get real. Um, it's been a journey as to how I started Elon Consulting. I've been doing consulting for over 20 years. Started with, corporate consulting firms. Clients were federal, state and local, school districts, colleges, and universities across the different industries.
Mhm.
And so started in change management coming out of college. And at that time, we looked at change management, or should I say, a lot of experts looked at change management as just a form of communication when there's a major transformation going on within a company, or just a training guide or a quick training, for half a day for employees going through different transformations. Now, whether that's a software transformation, a leadership transformation, or an acquisition merger, when employees, people who are actually working, who's impacted by that change, they only received minimum communication or minimum training.
Mm.
And so through the years, I started to see a trend where change management was usually a plus one.
Mm.
It was, thought of later at the
Mm.
last minute
Mhm.
after the
Mhm.
transformation. And so once the change was there, they focused usually on the process and the system. So I said, you know what? When a change occur, whether it's one of the ones that I mentioned, who's the one who's being impacted?
Mm.
The people,
Right.
the employees. Who
Right.
has to implement and execute the change? The employees, the
Mhm.
people. So after all those years, I said, I need to put together a methodology where change is truly focused on the people. And
Mm.
that's why I came up with a people first methodology for transformation, for any type of change transformation. Doesn't matter the industry,
Mhm.
but it's all about the people who are impacted and making sure they have the tools and resources they need to execute upon the change.
Nice, nice. So when I think about change and change management, and there's tons of processes out there for change, I always think about how once you learn or take one of those processes on, you now are able to apply that to different things. So in a systematic way. And so I think from an education standpoint, I love utilizing various change management theories to help you get through the day to day in terms of the work you're doing. Can you talk about a change management theory that maybe you've used or maybe that could be used by a leader to kind of get through their day to day?
Yes, yes. Actually, I use my
Okay.
own methodology. I am an advocate, of course, Cotter. I've studied Cotter's method. I've
Mhm.
studied ProSci. Those are amazing methodologies. But throughout, you start to learn and experience different things where you can start develop your own. And
Okay.
so my methodology is LACE, LASE.
Okay.
LACE stands for listen, assess, strategize, and then execute. Because, with the experience and when you come into an organization, it's easy to say, this is what you should do.
Right.
This is something that was done at another company, so it should work for you. And that's not the case, right? So, what I first do when I come into an organization to try to understand what the change is, what the transformation is, and how their employees will be impacted, I come in at first and listen. I do a stakeholder analysis. I usually understand who those stakeholders are, and I come in and literally do listening sessions.
Mhm.
And that's what's most important, right? You want a customized approach for each industry. Yes, it's okay to have best practices,
Right.
but what worked at one company may not work at another. So
Right.
first you have to listen. And then, of course, you come and assess. After you've done your listening, you come and assess. You understand exactly what's going on? How are people feeling? Do they understand the change? Do they actually have you done that data analysis, right? You're identifying gaps and you're evaluating, some risks to provide a comprehensive view of the situation when you come and do that assessment, right? And then from there, I strategize, right? I understand, I try to develop a tailored approach with a solution that aligns to the actual goal or vision or mission of that particular company and make sure it drives measurable impact. And then finally, we execute, right? We want to make sure we're executing with precision, we're leveraging best practices, not only using best practices, but then it's also depends upon the cross-functional collaboration. And then you want a results-driven mindset to deliver on the change or transformation that you're doing. So what I use is my own methodology, which is the LACE methodology.
I love that, Lena. Okay, so tell me again what LACE stands for. So L is for listen,
Listen,
A
correct?
is for assessment,
Yep. A is for assess, S is for strategize, and E is for execute.
execute. Okay, thank you, Lena. I love that. Love that. I love when we can, because I think that, to your point, there's tons of stuff out there. But what I've learned over time is your strategy is adopted by people where it's meaningful to them. And I love, this is a very simple but effective strategy to use when you think about change management. So thank you for sharing that. Little
Anytime.
pearls of wisdom. Yes. Yes. How do you balance impact, empathy, and change leadership?
Yeah, well, literally the first step to listening is you listen with empathy, because you're putting that human-centered approach when you're going out to speak to people. And you want to make sure with whatever change you're going through, whatever transformation you're going through, you have that, human-centered thought mindset that people's lives are about to be impacted with the change, right? Some people have been doing this particular job for 20 plus years, right? So if their job is changing, you're changing their lifestyle.
Right.
If there's a particular system that's being changed, and someone's been utilizing this system for 20 plus years, you're impacting their lifestyle.
Right.
And so when you're coming in, you're listening with empathy. You're trying to understand not just how their job is going to be affected or impacted at work, but even from a personal perspective. When they leave work, they have to go home. But then if they don't know what they're doing when they come to work, it's impacting how they leave. It's impacting their personal life. And so you want to be empathetic when listening. You want to understand, what do they need to successfully execute amongst this transformation, this change. So you're listening, you're understanding from a communication perspective, you're understanding from a training perspective, you're understanding from I really don't want to learn this new system or this new change. And you have to be mindful of that. Some people, you don't, you want your best people to stay and to learn whatever change that's coming along. But you want to make sure that you're giving them the tools they need to be successful. So that's all listening with empathy, just being kind, sitting back. You have two ears and one mouth, and literally listening intentionally to your clients and making sure that you are capturing that data. And then when you get to the execute phase, you are actually taking that data and putting that into action. So it's one of those things where you have to be empathetic when you're working with people through a change. It's not just about the system. It's not just about the process. While yes, both of those are very important. But like I said, at the end of the day, who has to execute on that change? You want to make sure that those people who are actually having to execute amongst that change, you have that empathetic voice already laid out in your strategy.
Nice. So you talk a lot about people, right? Change people. How do you get the people that are really involved in the change at the heart of the change?
Yeah. Well, that goes back to utilizing some of the tools. Now, I did not develop, of course, the change curve. That is not me. But I do utilize that tool, right? You want to make sure that whoever the people are that are executing amongst the change, that one, of course, they are aware, right? If awareness is very important, that goes back to communication. Let people know what's coming up. If you know that a change is going to occur, inform them. make them aware. And then from there, they can actually try to understand why.
Mhm.
Why are we moving to this change? How is this going to impact me? So one, they're aware, got it. Two, okay, I understand how I'm going to be impacted. And then, of course, you want them to adapt to the change. Once they adapt to the change, it's almost like they're being accountable. They're taking that responsibility on, right? And then at the end, you want them to be committed. You want them to be committed to the change. Now, some people can jump from being aware to being committed because they might not actually have to change their particular job.
Right.
But they can be those champions. They can be those change agents to those who have to actually be committed, adapt, understand, and go through the whole change curve because their jobs are being impacted.
Right.
So you can be a change champion. You can be a change agent to influence those particular people who have to actually literally go through the change and their jobs are being impacted. So I definitely use the change commitment curve to help build relationships and also to be an influencer for those people and to let them know I understand, right? I understand what you're going through. I've done it before. I've been through this particular change. I get it's not going to be a quick learn. You're not going to learn it in a week. You're not going to learn it, possibly in 2 weeks.
Right.
But I'm here for you to help you adapt. And then so that way you can understand and then move to executing amongst the change.
I love that, Lena. I love using that curve in those two ways. I mean, those are two different ways. And I think to your point, I never thought about using it as a way to help others also.
Yeah.
Right? When you think about where people are in that space.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very important. Very important.
Can you share a moment that shifted outcomes through empathy?
Yeah. So, there have been a lot of moments where, for me professionally and personally, where I needed empathy, but then I was also empathetic to others.
Mhm.
As a leader, that should be one of the core skills you have is empathy. Having just being kind every day. When I walk into the office, I want to make sure that first and foremost, my team, right? My team understand that yes, want you to get the job done, but things happen, right? We come in every day, something could have happened at home. We're not always a happy go lucky, let's go do the job type of day. And so I want my team members to understand that I care about them and their personal lives. I want them to understand that I want them to be very transparent, open. I want them to have that sense of belonging and inclusion on my team. And I want them to feel as if they're valued because they really are. You're on my team. You're doing a very important job. But guess what? You as a person are valued as well. And so when I walk in, I want my team members to understand that empathy is first and foremost being kind, being understanding as a person. From there, we can then talk about the work, right? We can then talk about how we're going to move from this project to the next project and so forth. But first and foremost is laying that foundation of being valued and making sure they understand that they're valued, having that sense of belonging, and understand that you have a seat at this table. Bring your thoughts, bring your ideas, bring your creativity because it matters. Just because we've done things in the past and it's worked does not mean we can't change.
Right.
Doesn't mean we can't change. I do not want to create an environment where you cannot bring your thoughts and ideas. If you have a thought, if you have an idea of how something is going to work and make our jobs easier and better, bring that to the meeting. Now, will we act upon it immediately? Probably not, because there is a process.
Right.
But let's take the necessary steps to see how it works, to see if it makes sense for us to do this now, right? So empathy is like the foundation when you're a leader. And having that mindset of being inclusive, being kind, being nice, and having that value for your team is very important. And that's what I want to make sure all team members, all leaders understand is that lead with empathy. Lead with empathy, and then your team members will be able to build that trust in you as a leader. Yeah.
I really love everything you just said. And I think just Thursday, I was interviewing someone and she talked about kindness versus being nice. And I
Right.
hadn't really thought through that. And I've been really reflecting on the importance of kindness. They're two different things. People,
Absolutely.
I think they use those words interchangeably, but as leaders,
Mhm.
it is really important that we're kind. And
Absolutely.
especially right now, right? Like
Absolutely.
all the things that are happening. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm happy you brought that up. Being nice and being kind are two separate things. I can
Mhm,
be nice every day and
mhm,
say, "Hi, how are you?" And then go to my office. That's being nice,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
Speaking in the
mhm,
morning. How was your
mhm,
day? But being kind is taking it a step further. And
mhm,
that's being a little bit more intentional,
mhm,
and actually you are being authentic
mhm.
and more organic in your nature, in your personality,
Yeah,
and helping to build that culture within your team. We
yeah.
talk a lot about culture, especially in today. Being nice is fine, but
Mhm,
being kind is building a culture of laying the foundation of having that empathy, leading with empathy. Because
mm,
someone can definitely feel when you're not authentic. You're coming in, you're being nice. Hello, how was your weekend? And then you go off and do whatever. And then you come back and you're not nice anymore, right? Being kind and being authentic
mm,
with the culture that you're trying to set up, leading with empathy,
mhm.
that's a whole vibe. That's
Mm,
and
mm.
that vibe is going to stay there even if it's a bad day.
Yeah.
Even if it's a bad day, you could feel the vibe of, okay, my car stopped on the highway and it's raining down 95. I got to get to work, but I'm here. My boss understand. I'm good.
Mhm, mhm. I hear
So
you. Yeah.
definitely a difference.
As you were talking, I was just thinking being nice is like very superficial, doesn't take a whole lot.
Mhm.
Being kind, because yes, it's authentic. And in addition, if you're not feeling it, it
Yeah,
can be draining, but it's important, right? Like, so I always think about the things that pull our energy sometimes when we're in these spaces as leaders. And I'm sure sometimes that kindness piece is something, it's not saying you shouldn't do it, but it
right.
can be draining because you have to, it's like you said, it's being authentic,
Yeah.
even when you don't feel like it. Because I'm gonna tell you something, Lena. A lot of times I'm like, I don't feel like it.
Right.
I'm praying that it don't come out when it shouldn't, but it can take a lot of your energy. So I think that I really appreciate that comment, because again, I've been doing a lot of self reflection since Thursday evening,
Yeah. Yeah.
when I was talking about this with someone else. So yeah,
Yeah.
yes, I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. It matters. And people will be able to tell if you're a leader, even on a bad day for you,
Mhm, mhm.
your team will be able to tell, you know what, Lena's not having a good day and she needs her time. They will speak up for you. They will protect you if
Right.
they feel like, okay, today is not the day. I understand. Let her have her time. She's good. It's just a bad day,
Mhm.
because they already know that you're kind. They already know that you're empathetic,
Right.
and they will take the time to say, you know what, I'm about to allow her to have her time,
Right.
right?
Right.
Versus being nice and coming in and they're like, look, I need to get this bad day or not. And you don't want that from your team. You want them to understand you, just
Exactly.
like they want you to understand them. So
Right.
it's two ways. It's
Yeah.
two ways.
I
Yeah.
hear I hear you. Yes. Absolutely. So, one question I have is all around today and where we currently are.
Mhm.
Um, what skills do you think leaders need to navigate change culture in today's climate?
Oh my gosh. We really just talked a lot about it. Being kind, being empathetic, but there's so much going on.
Mhm,
There's so much going on in today's world. And we just need to take a step back and almost just communicate. We need to understand, what are you thinking? How is it going? And I know a lot of times in business, we feel like we don't have the time because the work needs to be done, right? The work needs to be done. We come in, we hit the ground running with our first meeting. We go until lunchtime. We may have a little conversation at the water cooler. And because, a lot of us are in person now, we probably have a little bit more time for the water cooler. But actually being intentional to take that time to get to know your team again outside of work is very important. Going back to having those lunch and learns where you're, putting work aside, but you're doing it during lunch and just having those conversations about what's going on. How can I be helpful? Listening to your team also. I remember when we were in the office, ongoing every day. And we did have those, what we call the brown bag lunches, and everybody came to a conference room and we just had casual conversation while we were having lunch, right? Whatever people wanted to talk about. What did you do over the weekend? What vacation you're about to go on? How are your kids? Also, having that time after work, whether you're going to a happy hour, getting to know each other. A lot of time companies used to have those family socials, maybe taking a day and, saying half a day, we're going to have this cookout or we're going to have this, festival, bring your kids, bring your family, whatever that may look like. So we're going to have to go back to doing some of those, what I call business yet non-business activities at work, because what you don't want to do is bring the morale down on your team. Because again, like we said, the work is work. The work needs to be done.
Right.
And for the work to be done successfully, your employees have to feel like they can bring their whole selves to work. So much change is going on. A lot of us are going from virtual back to in person. And they don't want that. They don't want that. They were very comfortable at being wherever they were, doing the work and being happy. A lot of us are now back in the office. So we're going to have to change the way and the structure of how we work. Yes, we're going to work, but we need to bring in some of those people soft skills back into the office, building relationships, networking, right? Having those, what we used to call those giving back, right? Whether you are providing community service. I know a lot of times the companies, we provided community service activities within whatever community we were working. And that's part of, yes, it's work, but we're giving back to whatever company through people-oriented activities. That's very important right now, getting to know your team members outside of the day-to-day work. Yeah.
Thank you, Lena. Thank you. So I want to thank you again, Lena, for joining us on the Let's Get Real Candid Conversation. Is there anything else you want to share with the group, with our listeners? And more importantly, if you can talk about how individuals can get in touch with you if they're interested in your consulting services.
Absolutely. So please get in contact with me. First of all, I do want to say change is inevitable. We're going through major changes right now in every aspect. And so with change, it can happen, but there is a process, there's a strategy. But first and foremost, you do have to put people first. We matter, people matter, and you have to bring that human-centered design strategy into your company every day. So with that said, if you're looking for a consulting firm to actually bring in some experience, to bring in those change management consulting services, and actually just trying to understand how I can build the morale of my team members, how I can bring in relationship building, bringing back that trust, bringing back collaborativeness to my team. That's what we focus on at Elan Consulting. We want to make sure that your business is successful, but your business is successful through your employees who are executing upon the work that your business is producing. And so to get in contact with me, just reach out to me at lena.hall@elanconsultingglobal.com. And again, that's Lena.Hall, HALL, at ELANCONSULTING global.com. You can also go to our website at elanconsultingglobal.com and get more information. But time is now for us to understand true change management. And we are looking forward to helping businesses and organizations build their employees to be their best, to bring their best selves to work every day. So that way they can give themselves and work to the best of their capabilities.
Awesome, Lena. Thank you so much for joining us on the Let's Get Real Candid Conversations. I'll see you all next time. Bye.